Today, we are talking to Diane Schwarz, Vice President and Chief Information Officer for Johnson Controls. Diane is responsible for leading a global business-aligned information technology organization where she develops and executes enterprise-wide IT strategy to ensure a strong foundation for Johnson Controls to scale and achieve its growth objectives. So Diane, on a different note, you're obviously a central shared organization, serving multiple business units, multiple geographies. Your JCI is spread across the world. So how do you, obviously for the business, their demand is important and it needs to be handled here and now. But from your perspective, there's obviously going to be a certain size and scale that you're able to handle at any point of time. So how do you prioritize demand? I mean, that surely is a big question that you have to try and answer in the shared services organization. So how do you go around doing that?
So first, I think of us as enterprise services. It's nuance between shared service and enterprise services. But George Oliver, our phenomenal CEO, reinforces the message to all that our businesses can't execute and achieve their objectives without the enterprise services. Technology being one, HR, finance being others, so that we are the platform that everything else is built upon. In terms of prioritization, Johnson Controls has a strategy on a page. So growth, operational improvements, high performance culture, simply put, with a number of items underneath there. I start our conversation with that. And for all technology strategic objectives, where does it tie on that Johnson Controls strategy on a page? If something doesn't tie to one of those, we shouldn't be talking about it. Now, within that, it still is more than we could achieve in any given year.
Right.
But we've agreed on what are the major items that we need to do. And this is as an executive team, we agree on that. For example, I have far too many aging ERP systems, some of them older than our adult children. And we've agreed that is one of the most important tech projects, multi-year, that we need to do. So we say, we are going to fund that first. Next, we are going to fund our growth initiatives. Second. Third, we need to work on operational improvements. Yeah, everybody has some supply chain issues. We need to do some projects there. So we really block and tackle it that way, but also reserving items for, I'll call it unplanned demand, management reserve, whatever you want to say. There's going to be things that come up, and we need to give ourselves the flexibility for that. I wish we had the resources to do everything that everybody is asking for, but our business also can't always commit to the resources and mind share they need to do. They need to provide when we're on a project together. So that's another aspect of when we're in the prioritization, say, I know you want this. Can you really belly up and do it? So that's when we're starting to get more into the calibration level. But it's a much different approach than how our organization used to work, which is very much a bottoms up and build it down. I told my team last year, we're no longer playing Jenga. Yeah. You know the Jenga? You've put all of the building blocks and then you take them out until the tower falls. That's what it felt like we were doing. Said, no, we are no longer playing Jenga. We're going to have these half a dozen big blocks and then some other pebbles and sand that will be sprinkled within.
Right. No, totally understood. I think that's a great strategy.
I mix my metaphors all the time, if you haven't tell.
As long as the tower is not falling. So
that's right.
So, obviously with that kind of organization you have, it's not only the speed of execution, but the scale of execution, which is also important from a demand standpoint. So how do you manage that on a day-by-day basis again?
So one size fits all doesn't fit anyone well at all. And we understand that our large-scale, multi-year programs need to operate in a certain aspect. But we have focused on growing teams and sponsoring initiatives that also allow us to move at speed and at smaller scale. I'll give you a couple of examples. Low code automation. We have stood up a team in best cost country and dedicated teams to areas of the business that could really use more of that automation.
Right.
And when I talked about those funding mechanisms, that was one where we said, we're going to be able to move these budgets without changing the overall cost structure that allows you to have a dedicated team to start to work on operational efficiencies for you. And you, as a business leader, you are going to be able to realize benefits, some of them hard benefits, some of them soft benefits, but now you have a team at your disposal to work on any of these low code improvements. So that's one example. Another example, we have health initiatives. So when we survey our employees on how do they feel as an employee at Johnson Controls, do they like us as an employer? How can we be better? We then sponsor work streams and have volunteers work on the improvements they want to do. So in IT, the cobbler's children have no shoes. What CIO can really invest in the initiatives they want to improve IT operations? I use these health initiatives and these volunteers who are passionate and engaged and can work on shoestring budgets, but deliver real results to make lives better for how we deliver services to our end users. So those are just a couple of examples of how we can move at speed while we are still moving forward on these monolithic projects.
And those are great examples, but I'm going to catch you a little on the low code one. So, low code and no code are really great technologies from some perspective, but I think the way I see CIOs, they grapple with the idea of how do I make sure that the governance guardrails are put in place, that business is not trying to write your own code that actually does things for them, and then later on, suddenly when things break apart, then suddenly IT is responsible. So how do you try to bring governance into what low code development is all about?
So govern when it's going to get you in jail. Sarbanes-Oxley, privacy. So we know we need guardrails on items such as that. Other areas, again, I'll be provocative. Does it require heavy-handed governance? Think back to tools of the 90s, access databases. Yes, I'm old enough to know what an access database is. Did we have governance around that? No, it was almost impossible. When somebody developed something and then they eventually left the company and then they came to IT and said, we're sorry, can you help us support that? And we wind up picking up the pieces. But that's okay because that effort brought immediate value to the business for an extended period of time, which if we had over-governed that, we would have minimized the benefit of that. So I am okay with non-IT professionals doing their low-code development. And we do have teams that are, again, not rolling up to IT, that are doing their own development. But I ask they work with us. Again, on areas where it's privacy, financial information, that is when they work with the centralized teams to enable them. I want to bring business results to the business as fast as possible. The team that hard lines up to me don't always have to be the ones to deliver that.
Right. No, that's a great example. Actually, the most prolific database in the world today is Excel. So absolutely, just case in the point. So
right.
Absolutely understand that. So, changing tracks. Sustainability is obviously big for JCI, just for the kind of market you address, but also I'm sure it's a big corporate goal as well. So from an IT perspective, how do you support your organization from meeting their sustainability goals, objectives?
So we have a number of tracks which line up to sustainability. One is supporting our chief sustainability officer in the tools, systems, and processes that she needs to do to execute her job. We have reporting, for example, that we need to do. So capturing metrics and reporting to the marketplace requires tools and systems. So again, it goes back to who is supporting her with what tools and how are we doing that? Right. But also having it flowed down in our objectives that we each need to have sustainability front of mind and using the company's resources better. So removing computing assets that aren't very sustainable. Right. It's the old items, moving items to hyperscaler cloud platforms. Those are all part of what we strive to do as we make our operations better.
Are you able to measure that in any shape or form and, say, hey, because as we talk about, zero carbon or zero footprint, et cetera, is that for, in subsequent years as a goal?
Yeah. So Johnson Controls has a tool called Net Zero Advisor, which we use to help our customers understand how they can overall reduce their carbon emissions and improve their bottom line with better utility savings. But I'm not using that internally for each of my small sites. It's not worth the effort to go in and apply. Do I get rid of this data closet, or what are the dollars that it will be saved by eliminating that data closet? We just know it's the right thing to do rather than have to measure every small paperclip.
On a slightly different topic, from a diversity perspective, you are a woman leader for an IT organization. Presuming diversity is a big goal for you and core to your heart. So how do you promote diversity and inclusion in an organization like as diverse as JCI?
So I realized that my voice matters and I need to be an advocate for all others out there. Not only myself, but every member of the executive team, whether they are diverse or not, and realizing that our messages need to be amplified. So I do support whenever I'm asked to speak and to represent us in the marketplace to visibly show that diversity counts, diversity matters. Now, I'm also the executive sponsor of our LGBTQ community. We call it JC for E, JC for everyone. And it's not just putting my name as an executive sponsor. Right. It's showing up. It's participating in the events. Right. It's having a relationship with the employees on those teams, mentoring them, helping them in their careers, actively sponsoring them. And then when it comes to recruiting and hiring, certainly we have the practices that this is very healthy to say every panel needs to have a diverse panel. Right. If you don't have diverse candidates to consider, why not? And having that level of reporting. But that's just a control mechanism, which is important. Right. It's really about messaging to everyone that diversity of thought makes every solution better, not just within Johnson Controls, but within our suppliers, our customers, our community. Everything that together we all bring is a far better solution than what I could do alone.
Oh, absolutely. And actually having a nurturing environment where, you listen to and you're able to grow, I think is very, very cool.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Diane.
My pleasure.
This was a pleasure having you here. And thank you so much for the insights that you've given us today on Mega Talks.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.